Hi, good evening, everyone. We would like to welcome you to the GAP webinar. We'll start with the introduction. I'm Shruti. I look after communications and impact for GAP, and we have Manisha here who will be taking us through what GAP is and will be answering all your questions. And she has partnerships and programs for GAP. So Manisha, we'll get started with some of the questions that I have, and then we can open the floor for everybody to ask you questions. Is that good?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shruti, and just wanting to say welcome to everyone as well. Thanks.
Great. Manisha, first and foremost, when did GAP start, and can you tell us about the GAP journey?
Yes. GAP was actually initiated, the idea came up through Sunil Savara and some others in October 2014, when there was a thinking around how do we impact more and more people, especially change makers in the world who are making change happen on the ground. How can we support them in their journeys and allow others to support them? So, every common person or anyone working in an organization or at home or anywhere in the world, how do we all engage in this pursuit of eradicating poverty and do it in a way that can really have an impact on the ground through action? And this idea came in October. I think in October is when I engaged with it, but the journey has been going on since then. We launched GAP at a very beautiful event that took place in February 2015, and it brought together many mentors like Mohammed Yunus, Aruna Roy, Harish Hande, Vijay Mahajan, and many others who have been, who are pioneers in this area, who've been working on poverty eradication for the last few decades. And along with them, we invited 100 change makers to come and interact with them, and another 100 catalysts were individuals who came from different backgrounds, whether they were from companies or impact investors or other NGOs, funders, foundations, so that whoever could potentially come and support these change makers to move forward on their journey. And we had change makers from all across the country. We had rural change makers from various villages of India. We had urban change makers as well, and a couple of, a small percentage of individuals who came from different parts of the world as well. And that journey has, the 2 days that we had at the Gandhi Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad were just truly magical and enabled everybody to connect with everyone. And there was a real collective that formed, which stood for eradicating poverty, moving beyond our own needs to actually working on initiatives and supporting this particular challenge that we all face right now. So that's kind of how the journey began, and since then we've basically developed a lot more initiatives, a lot of support initiatives that can really engage the change makers to become even more clearer about their initiative, have all the skills, have the connections, have some more resources that can support them on their journey going forward. And so we launched another event, we had another event in 2016 as well, earlier this year. And it was a slightly different format where we had something like an inner journey and an outer journey, where the outer journey was very much about connecting with people, working on the plans of the change makers, and really developing all the resources that were required to help them on their journey. And the inner journey was to help them get very clear about their own life purpose and also be supported to develop their leadership very clearly and to have that reflection and understanding and self-awareness for themselves. So, and since then, we've launched many initiatives which I can take you through, but this is kind of where we are right now. And we recently got funded by the Tata Trust, which is allowing us to develop a whole range of support services and support programs that can take change makers on a new journey. And GAP has always stood for, for action in the space. So it's not about just lots and lots of thinking, and I'm not saying we are not contemplating, but the focus is very much that some action happens on the ground and people come out of poverty. Yeah, and we've engaged with many partners along the way who've been part of this journey. So I can share more as we go along, but that's just to give you an initial flavor of, how GAP began and where we are with it.
No, that's great. That's a great place to start. Just for everybody who's listening in, we also have, for those of you who are on your computers, we also have a presentation that, you can go through. We did send it via email to you as well, so in case you want to open that while we speak, that will just give you a better understanding of GAP as well. That's great, Manisha. So we did speak about change makers, and we did speak about how GAP started. But could you, if I had to ask you what is GAP, how would you describe it?
GAP is basically a platform that brings change makers, partners, coaches, and many others to come together and really accelerate the journey of the change makers so that they can have more immediate impact, in the initiatives that they're working on and in the communities that they're working in, so that more and more people can come out of poverty. And that's what, I believe GAP stands for. And, we have a manifesto around how we believe that every human being on this planet needs to live with dignity and in abundance. We also know that a world where the power of our collective ideas and strengths and all our thoughts and energies, when they come together, we will find solutions that can wipe out poverty altogether. We stand for that too. We know that it is the change makers that will make a lot of the change happen on the ground, and the more we can empower them quickly and speedily, that's what is the third thing that we stand for. Many, many, many more individuals in their lifetime, and we want to facilitate that. Does that give you a sense of that?
Yes, it does. So clearly, the change maker is a very essential part of the entire GAP network and the GAP journey. Who would be an ideal GAP change maker?
So we are looking at individuals who are currently, who are working on projects or intend to work on projects connected to agriculture, education, livelihoods and enterprise, water, sanitation, healthcare, financial inclusion, all these key needs that every human being needs in whichever part of society or community that they're living in. So we are looking for change makers who are working on these projects, and we obviously want to connect with ones that are totally committed to it and passionate about, making that change happen and actually stand for this. We also want to make sure that the ones that are new to this area or new to this change-making space, but have actually looked on that idea for at least a year before, they come on board and work with GAP. But obviously anybody who's interested in doing some work in GAP will surely, can connect with GAP. We also want to make sure that each of these change makers are driven to make their initiative a success, and they're open to growing themselves, because a large part of what happens in GAP is we're providing avenues of growth, of people to learn new things, meet new people that can help them grow their initiative. So that's our intention, is to make sure that the change makers are open to change and growth and to new perspectives, and obviously, deeply, deeply committed to wiping out poverty and ready to work with others to make this happen. And I think that's the most powerful, thing that GAP can do, is bring all these people together so that we can all share our knowledge, learn from each other, support each other, and have GAP and our partners support each change maker simultaneously or in parallel.
Right. Right. So considering the support that GAP has been giving the change makers and that it plans to do, what are the kind of services that GAP offers to the change makers?
So when we looked at what the kind of support change makers wanted and spoke to many, and we've developed this slowly over a period of time, we found that there were some development programs where each individual wanted to develop within themselves so that they could be great change leaders and have a better impact on their initiatives and their lives. So we've got what we call development programs. And the second part is resource programs. Now, these resource programs are, you're looking for resources of funds, for expertise, for individuals who can volunteer, for solutions that maybe certain institutions can provide you. So these are all the resources that we try and make available to our change makers. So we've got around 9 programs here, as you can see. The resource programs are GAP Labs, Gap Volunteering, Gap Shared Services, and Gap Funds. And Gap Labs are places where solutions can be found, where academic institutions that we are partnering with, like TIS and SPGen, Institute of Management, we've got Zure University, Imperial College London, and many others that we are enrolling. These are organizations that want to look at very specific areas in the social space and find solutions for some of the challenges that change makers are facing. So it's a place of experimentation and research. Gap Volunteering is basically, we find that many students, many individuals from organizations want to volunteer. So here is a possibility for you to find a resource that can support you with your journey. This is for a change maker to support them on their journey. Gap Shared Services, here we are looking at, we know that as every change maker is going through their journey, they need support at so many different levels, whether it's to make a website or a communications plan or have help with accounting or legal, all these very basic organizational development type of services are so important for every organization. And so we've partnered with various shared services, people, individuals, professional services organizations who can provide us with these services to our change makers, either pro bono or at a very subsidized cost. So that's something we want to make available to our change makers. Gap Funds is basically to do with getting access to grants, loans, and investments from our funding partners. So we don't have our own fund. What we do have is partners who are ready to support change makers to get their funds in specific areas. So what we do is we prepare change makers to be totally clear about their plans. We prepare them to see if they're ready for funding right now or they need some more time. We get them to be very clear about what kind of funding would be relevant at what stage they're in. So this is the kind of support we provide to our change makers. So these are all our resource programs. And now we've got the development programs, and the one that we've already worked with is the Gap Leadership Coaching Program, where the last year we've had coaches, professional coaches who've joined Gap, who are sensitive to the social space and have been trained in that area and have made their coaching expertise available to change makers pro bono, and this they did for a year. The program is slightly different this year, but that's a key benefit that many change makers have experienced. And Gap Experts that we are putting together, as we are so connected across various organizations and subject matter experts, that they are part of our pool of mentors who can support you to get onto a mentoring program with you and support your initiative. The Gap Action Team is a short-term 3-month intensive program that can support individuals and in their initiatives to double their outcome. And Gap Learn is basically about enhancing, your knowledge through various modules of, learning modules that we're going to make available with you, along with our partners that will help us deliver this. So everything from how you can create a marketing plan to how you can work with a team, how effectively you can create a strategy for your organization. All of this, all the various topics will be covered through our Gap Learn modules. And lastly, we're going to be launching a Gap Mission Impossible Leaders program. Now, this is a very intensive transformational program which is going to run for a period of a year for the individuals that will get selected to come on board. And it's actually a really intense program that will create a huge step change in the change makers' capacity to lead and be a leader and be truly unstoppable and really take their initiative to a very different level altogether. So as you can see, there are 9 programs, and all of these programs are available at different stages based on the readiness of the change maker. So this is kind of how we've structured what's possible, for you to have access to when you come into Gap.
That's great. Thank you so much for running us through those programs. Now, to avail these programs, how does one become a Gap change maker, and what happens after a change maker signs up for a service? If you could just quickly run us through that.
Sure. our applications are now open, so if you're interested, please do apply online. We're really excited. We really want to hear from you and excited to have as many change makers join us. As soon as, we'll go through the process of choosing and selecting various change makers, and once selected, they will be inducted in March. That's our intention, to have as many change makers onto our program. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of work that we'll work alongside the change maker to make sure that their plans and preparation are ready for the next phase of what different programs that they can come on board with. And at the end of the preparing and planning stage, it'll get very clear from most of the change makers which programs that they can access. We can make sure that every change maker can go on to any of the development or resource programs as long as they're ready. And that support will be there with them ongoing for the rest of the year. So this is what a GAP Changemaker's journey will be the moment they come on board. There will be many events, there's the leadership programs, there's learning modules, there's GAP Action Team, potential to work with your initiative. They're all very exciting support opportunities that you can really take on board and take your journey onto a very different level if you're ready for this.
Great. There are a lot of organizations clearly who are supporting GAP. Who all are these organizations? And you call them partners, but what is the role that they play?
So partners. So the way we have structured basically a large chunk of GAP is we've got change makers, and we know that there are many partners who are already doing all these various support programs that we've highlighted in different ways. And we are working with them. So like I mentioned with GAP Labs, we've got the various academic institutions working with us to, research and experiment and find solutions to change makers' problems and find new innovations. We've got partners from companies like Accenture and others who are interested in providing some shared services, who are otherwise wanting to work with us on the GAP A team as well. We've got an organization called Bridge Partnerships, which is a leadership development company working alongside us, the Mission Impossible Leaders Program. We also have various funding organizations like BitGiving, which is a crowdfunding organization, and many others who are part of our funding partnerships. So as you can see, all these partners, they come on board. We sit down and work out what the programs can look like and deliver that support to you through many of our partners. So that's kind of how we are structured right now. And we've had many partners supporting us. We also have Tata Trust, who's, as I've mentioned, who funded us, and we've had Ashoka supporting us initially in our initial days when we were getting set up. So yes, we've had many partners all throughout the journey for various ways of growing GAP.
Wonderful. So those are the questions that I had. Now we'll open it up for the rest of the participants to ask their questions.
Hello.
Yes, hi.
Yeah. Hi, this is Sushant.
Hi, Sushant.
I'm from an organization called Development Initiative working in Raipur, Chhattisgarh.
Very nice. Thank you for coming on the call. Yes.
Yeah. My question is, my experience with this sector for last 20 years says that there are a lot of work is happening at top level in terms of research and leadership development and a lot of documentation side, communication sides. But when you talk to the ground level, at action level, we have a vacuum. We somehow not able to attract the best brain to work at the ground. Whether they are more interested at in a tough level where more research and the rest of the things are being done. So this is a good initiative in that sense, the GAP initiatives. In that context, I just want to put my ideas. is GAP also thinking about, the nurturing the voluntarism in the society, which has been historically the biggest strength of Indian society, helping each other and the solidarity and all rest of the things. And all the developmental projects, as far as I know, boil down to community will come forward and share voluntarily and work voluntarily, and we believe in the theory that only the change can happen. So how do you bring those aspects in the whole GAP concept when you GAP program designing part? So I am a bit interested to hear from you about that.
So let me see if I've got your question right. So I'm just re-clarifying that you're saying that how is the volunteering aspect being developed so that more and more within the community can support others in the community. Is that your question in some sense?
Absolutely right, because that is the sense diminishing day by day in the society.
Yes. No, I completely get that. And I think that's kind of the premise from which GAP was set up in the first place, was to see how a common person can actually start engaging in, in this whole area of poverty eradication. Otherwise, it feels like a really huge problem that nobody wants to touch. For many of us, we would have just normally gone to a charity or given some alms to people who might need it. So in this case, firstly, we've created a whole program called GAP Volunteering. So everybody from students to individuals who've been off work, who have spare time, to people who are retired, to are individuals who can come on board. And if they are interested in volunteering, we connect them up to the various change makers who need support, in various ways, and we connect them up, and so that they can go and support it. So we've done this quite a lot. We've had people from Tata Trust come and support some initiatives. We've had people from the Zurich University from another part of the world, from Maastricht, coming and doing some very specific communications-related projects with various change makers. This is something that we want to really make happen at all levels. And see, if you look at all our programs, since we're doing it with our partners, we are doing it in a way that the partners can bring their expertise to the change makers. So if you look at shared services, so we've got an organization called the Resolve India, which provide a lot of accounting services to organizations, and they've made this available pro bono to change makers. This is this is another type of volunteering which is more skilled, but in a very specific way to share one's expertise. So if you can see, this volunteering piece is really something that we believe in, and we develop it very strongly. Obviously, there's a lot more to do, especially to reach individuals. With the way we reach the communities who are poor is through our change makers. The people we work with directly is the change makers. So if we can provide whatever the change maker needs to get supported on the ground, either through volunteering or through various other programs that we've got, we are hoping that will enhance the impact of that initiative on the ground. So, yes, volunteering is a very key part in the sense of creating communities, what we really want to do. I'm not saying we've achieved it, but that's our ethos, and we are already, we're developing it that way. Does this help, Shashank, to address your question?
Yeah. And
wonderful.
Of course, I have one more question which I also asked you about. How do the second part of my question was, of course, that was the first one. The question was, it's not a question actually. I just wanted to understand your idea about it, your understanding about it.
Sure.
What is, how do you plan the best brain to, work at ground? Because I'm not saying that every level there is importance. If somebody is working on the research, that is also a very important thing. But I have seen, I may be completely wrong, at the ground level, we are not able to attract the best brain. And even I have seen, because I was part of social work college and I was teaching, part of the teaching also for a brief period of 5 to 7 years. I have seen the best brain wanted to be limited to a particular segment. And at a ground level, when you talk about a rural or it's a very small pockets, we are not able to attract the best brains.
Yeah, no, I think, that's a very good point. I know there's a whole journey moving in that direction that has been happening over, the last 8-10 years. There's been a real shift in people wanting, who have been from either the best brains, as you would call it, are ready to move, have been moving into the space, wanting to make change happen in the world, have a social impact, make a difference in whatever capacity they can. Now, some of them are reaching the ground, not all of them are reaching the ground. So there is a scarcity, but there is a movement towards it, for sure. And I think what we are doing within GAP as well, whether it's through GAP Labs or through our GAP experts or through our GAP A team, is we want to try and see if we can get these, brains to come and think, allow some new thinking to come into the whole space on the ground, so that the change can happen in a much more drastic way, in a much more speedy way, rather than the slow pace that the change may be happening right now. So, it's a good point you're making, and I think there is a trend towards that, but maybe we can do a lot more on that. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining us here. And if you have any more questions, do write to us at changemakers@headhealthhigh.org. And you have our number on the presentation that we sent you, or on the website. You could call us too. And thank you so much for being here. Hope you did learn a lot more about GAP. Thanks. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Manisha, for your time. Bye.